Hello and welcome to the calculator guide video, Completing the Square. How can a calculator help? Don't forget to subscribe for future videos, or you can follow the calculator guide at Guide Calculator on Twitter. In this video we're going to look at how a calculator can help you to solve using completing the square. Now, just to highlight that the calculator won't complete the square and solve for you. There are calculators that exist that can do this, but typically they're not allowed in examinations, particularly not the GCSE or the A-level examinations in the UK at present. However, they can provide you with more information to help you complete the question and increase your confidence that the methods you're using are working towards the solution of the question. We're going to solve x squared plus 8x minus 2 equals 0 by completing the square, giving any solutions to 4 decimal places. We're going to use table mode to provide us with more information. Press mode and 3 and then input your function of x. I will then have to input a start value. Now I've got a set of axes here, and what I'm thinking about is this is going to be a quadratic graph, and I'm thinking about how that's going to look between certain values on the axes. So I'm just going to pick minus 10 as a starting value, and then I'm going to pick 10 as an end value, and the step will be 1, and it will give us information about what the graph will be like between those values for every integer value, so every step of 1. Here is our table of results. The f of x changes sign between x equals minus 9 and x equals minus 8. So the graph will go from above the x-axis to below the x-axis, and we'll have a root of the graph between these 2 points. Just scrolling down just to find out a little bit more information. Here at x equals minus 4, and between x equals minus 5 and minus 3, we have a little bit of symmetry going on. So we can see that minus 18 is sandwiched between 2 minus 17s, which indicates there that we must have a line of symmetry at x equals minus 4. And just moving up to x equals 0 and x equals 1, we've got another change of sign here, minus 2 to 7 again, which means we've got another crossing point of the x-axis, another root or solution to our equation. So let's just summarise what we've got here. We've got a solution between minus 9 and minus 8. We have a line of symmetry at x equals minus 4, and then we have another crossing point of the x-axis, or another solution between 0 and 1. Now, given that we know what the x squared graph looks like, we're in a position now where we want to sketch the graph out, and I'm thinking about the fact that while at minus 4, my f of x value was minus 18. And that's going to indicate the lowest point, the minimum point or the turning point of the graph, the bottom of the U shape of the curve. So I'm going to have a go at drawing it now. I'll start by going through minus 9 to minus 8. I'm going to have my turning point at minus 4, minus 18, and then I'm going to return up, and then there'll be another crossing point of the x-axis between 0 and 1. Now keep in mind this turning point because we're going to make reference to it again once we've completed the square of our original quadratic equation. Let's just summarise what we've found out then from the calculator. We know that there's a solution or a root between minus 9 and minus 8. We know that there's a turning point at minus 4, minus 18. And we know that we have another solution or root between 0 and 1. We're going to take a look at completing the square now. If you are already familiar with this, you may wish to skip about a minute ahead to the next section. Now, all quadratic equations can be described to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is the coefficient in front of our x squared. In this particular example, it's just 1. We don't need to write it in. B is the coefficient in front of the x, in this case 8, and c is the number on the end, in this case minus 2. We're going to change the form of the quadratic to x plus p all squared plus q, where p is the b coefficient, so the coefficient in front of the x divided by 2, and q is minus b over 2, or essentially minus p squared, plus c, so plus the numerical coefficient on the end of the quadratic equation. So we're going to take a look now at how to rearrange it into that form for this particular example. So I'm just rewriting out here my original quadratic equation, x squared plus 8x minus 2. And I'm just going to reference back to our instructions here. What I want to do is in the brackets I want to write x plus p, where p is b over 2, while b is 8, it's the number in front of the x. So we want 8 divided by 2, which is 4, and then we want to square that bracket. Now let's just have a look at what this actually means in a little bit more detail. X plus 4 all squared means we actually have a square bracket. So I could rewrite that as x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 4. Okay, now if I expand that out, I should have 8x squared plus 8x plus 16. And what I'm doing is I'm just making a little comparison between this and my actual quadratic equation. I've got plus 16 on the end, but if I compare that with what I've actually got, which is minus 2, we can see that they're different. And what we need to do is to make some sort of adjustment in order to make that correct. This square bracket on its own is not correct. That will give us x squared plus 8x plus 16. So what we need to do to get from 16 to minus 2 is to take away 18. Yes, 16 minus 18 gives us minus 2. So, and that is essentially our Q value that we discussed earlier. Now, if we want to use the definition to find that, what we'd do is we'd have minus, and then in brackets we'd have our P value, which is 4. And remember that is 8 divided by 2, or squared, plus our C value, which is minus 2. Now don't forget that you must square before multiplying by minus 1 essentially. So we've got minus 16 minus 2, which will then give us minus 18 as our Q value for this particular quadratic equation. So there's two ways of being able to derive that number that we have after our square brackets. We can either think about what the bracket would be when it's expanded and think about the difference that it would make compared to the actual number we have on the end of our quadratic equation, or we can use this Q formula to be able to find it out. Now just to verify that we've got the correct answer there, I'm going to enter the verify mode on the calculator. So it's mode and 4 to do that. Remember that our answer here will either be true or false. I'm going to input my original quadratic equation, x squared plus 8x minus 2, and use the verify menu to get an equal sign. And then I'm going to input my completed square form of the equation, which is x plus 4 in brackets squared minus 18. And here we have that it is true, which means that the two sides of the equation match, they are identically equal, which shows that we've done the completed square form correctly. I'm just going to make a little alteration. Let's say we just imagine we're taking away 16. That's not going to be correct. We've got faults there. Let's say we've added 2 accidentally rather than taking 2 away. Minus 14 is not correct. And let's say we've just left minus 2 in there. That's also going to be false. So we have a little bit of corroboration there that we are correct in terms of having minus 18 as the term on the end there. Now if I compare this then to the information that I had from the calculator about the turning point, well, I can notice that minus 18 matches the y value of the turning point, minus 18. And if I input the x value, minus 4, into the square brackets, minus 4 plus 4 equals 0. We're going to solve this particular equation now. So x squared plus 8x minus 2 equals 0, which is what we originally had, becomes x plus 4 in square brackets minus 18 equals 0. Now to solve this, I'm going to add 18 to both sides, and so I'll have x plus 4 all squared equals 18. Now I want to deal with the square bracket here, so what I'm going to do is take the square root of both sides. On the left hand side I'm going to have x plus 4, and then on the right hand side, well, I need to be extra careful here. I don't know whether it was a positive or negative result that was squared to give me 18, so I have to put both plus and minus the square root of 18 on this side. Okay, so just be careful for that. The difference between the two there, having a plus and minus, is actually going to be what generates our two different solutions. Now what I'm just going to do here is just simplify square root 18, and I'm going to just rewrite that as 3 root 2. So it's just simplifying the surd there. Just write in again x plus 4. Now I want a solution where we just have x equals, so what I'm going to do is subtract 4 from both sides. So on the left hand side I've just got x equals, and then I've got minus 4 plus or minus 3 square root 2. Okay. Now these solutions here where we've got a number with a surd is an exact answer. Yeah, there's no rounding involved, not a decimal answer. But if we have a little look back at our original question here, it's got give any solutions to 4 decimal places. So what we're going to have to do is use our calculator to find out what this exact answer would be rounded to 4 decimal places. So I'm just going to input it into the calculator. I'm actually just going to use square root 18. The calculator will simplify it for me. Here is the surd version that we found out, and I'm going to press the SD button to change that to a decimal value. And just looking at the full calculator display there, I'm going to round that to 0.2426. That's rounded to 4 decimal places. Okay, I'm just going to alter this now so that I've got minus 4 minus root 18. We have to deal with them separately. And here we have our decimal equivalent, minus 8.2426 to 4 decimal places. Now if I have a look back at what information the calculator gave me earlier on, well, it told me that there was going to be a solution or a root between 0 and 1, and one of our x values is between 0 and 1. And it also told us that there was going to be a root between minus 9 and minus 8, and the other x value reveals that that's true as well. So I'm just going to sketch the graph back out again. I know that the turning point here, the minimum point of the graph, is minus 4 minus 18, and I know that this point here, the left-hand root or the negative root of the graph, is minus 8.2426, and therefore the other solution over on the right-hand side is 0.2426. And remember, there was a line of symmetry there at minus 4. Well, if we have a look, that corresponds to the first value that we have in our exact answer, minus 4. And what it's really saying here is that if we start at the value of minus 4 and we add 3 root 2 onto that, then we get to our first solution. And if we subtract 3 root 2, then we get to our second solution. So the graph and the solutions are symmetrical about the line x equals minus 4. Okay, why not have a go yourself at this particular question? If you want to pause the video, I will be back with the solutions in about 10 seconds. And here we have the solutions. We have an exact form answer and then the decimal values to 3 decimal places. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time on the Calculator Guide.